I went to BTC Vegas 2026, and in this video, I will tell you exactly what I did. So, first, 25-hour transit. I was going from Australia to Las Vegas. It was 25 hours of straight travel. It was honestly pretty fun because I would just watch horror movies and stuff like that. The airplane meals were very good because, yeah, they were just delicious. And also, they came with a garlic roll, like a garlic roll. But the issue was it was greasy. So I couldn't pick it up with my fingers. Otherwise, I would just get greasy hands for the entirety of the flight. So, yeah, they should probably fix that. Put it in something where I don't have to get my hands greasy. Anyway, so I landed in Vegas, got in and out after that, and then now we fast forward to day one. So I first went to the Venetian, that's where it was being held, and I found out I could only go to 2 of the 3 days because I had a free pass. So I went to Pawn Stars, which was really cool and awesome. And at Pawn Stars, I saw a Roman denarius, right? A silver Roman denarius. And it wasn't even that expensive. So I looked up online, and apparently Roman denariuses are quite are quite cheap. So there you go. So yeah, I went to Pawn Stars. That was a cool experience. Then I went to get the bracelet at 2 p.m. and I started wandering around the convention, and there was a like rooms to the side where people were talking about coding stuff, and there was a talk of that. So I went and sat and listened to one of those. And I met a guy who was he was just a not a nice person. It was just weird. Like I sat down and he was like, "What do you do?" And I said, "Social media." And he just started like looking at me skeptical and just asking me these weird questions. I said, I have no answers for you. You know, I'm not here to answer your questions." And then it just got awkward and weird. Anyway, then I walked out and I met some cool boys, and one told me of Luma, right? So what is Luma? I'm not sure, but it's a crypto thing. Like Luma is a crypto thing. Oh, it's about creating AI stuff. Okay, that's cool. And then yeah, the event was good, and I spoke to a couple of people, and also Michael Saylor walked past. Like I was just talking to a guy, and then Saylor just walked past, and I said, "Hello, Saylor," and he just looked confused. He was just looking confused. Anyway, I went back to the hotel because it was late by that point, and then we went back to the event. Day two, this was the most lit day ever, honestly, because I went there and got in and just saw all the stuff. Um, yeah, it was awesome. So I just went to look around the Bitcoin conference. I saw things like small miners. I saw, you know, those USB miners and stuff like that. And I just spoke to a bunch of people about all kinds of things. There was a guy I met outside, and he said Satoshi Nakamoto's name is like an anagram of Satan. So he was super skeptical about Bitcoin. And I was just talking to a bunch of people. There were people that were nerds. Like there was one guy who had a iPad mounted to the back of his jacket, and on it he had some like Bitcoin like stuff on it. I don't know exactly what it was because I'm not technical enough. Anyway, I after we went to an event that was just outside the Bitcoin conference, and they had free food. It was amazing. And so yeah, that was awesome. Like it was a company that was hosting that for crypto people, and I met some really interesting people. Natalie Brunel was there. I met a guy who was an OG Bitcoin miner, so he mined on a CPU Bitcoin, right, and had 100 BTC a day, right. This is how early this guy was. And so I was just talking to these people. I met some finance people from Florida. You know what I find funny? Like there's different people in Bitcoin, right? There's the finance bros who are like wearing a suit, which is quite a lot of them. Then there are the people who are like crypto freedom maxis, who are like who are just into the freedom of Bitcoin and everything like that. And yeah, at this after event, I was just talking to the finance people, and yeah, and then the OG Bitcoin miner, he was a really cool guy. He was like, we were just talking and hanging out there, and he said, "Where do you want to go after this?" And I said, "Well, I saw that there was a there's an event at the Conrad Hotel, like." And so he was like, "Oh, but there's another event, but it's near there, and it's a private function. It's like a cigar lounge, right?" And him and all his friends were there. So this was kind of a private event, and so I said I'd love to go. And so we go there, and yeah, everyone who was there. When I walked in, I met a guy who like used to manage the Red Rock Casino. He knew Dana White personally, and he looked a bit like Dana White, honestly, like shaved head, muscular, tattooed, even though Dana White isn't tattooed. But yeah, that was super cool. And just talking to those guys made me think like these guys are really playing the game, right? These guys have like hundreds of employees, they have companies, and they're just super smart. That's the way I see it. And that was my takeaway from this whole thing was you can talk to people and they're super smart, right? And I like to be in a room where people know a lot more about things than me. So we're at this cigar lounge place right after the after party, after party, right? And just talking to all these guys, met one guy, super cool dude. And I'd love to have all these people on the podcast, by the way. We were talking about Christianity and yeah, the risks of Bitcoin. And here's the thing. At the after party of the first event, I met a guy who was of the second day. I met a guy who was just so religiously like convicted about Bitcoin, and you would have thought so many more people would be there like that. But most people I spoke to were highly like realistic about Bitcoin. They were realistic about the existential risks of Bitcoin, and they were just like, yeah, it's a thing of diversification. I only met one guy out of the 100 people I met or more, around 100 people I met one guy who was like, everything's going to zero against Bitcoin. Nothing is worth anything except Bitcoin. It's the scarcest thing in the world, which is not true, right? Bitcoin's not scarce because it's divisible, right? So you can have like Bitcoin, right? But also it's how much Bitcoin you can have, but also like a Picasso is rare. That's more rare, or a Da Vinci. Anyway, so let's go back to the after party where we were smoking cigars. I don't smoke, but they were all smoking cigars, just talking to all these really clever people. And then after we were about to leave, and I said to the guy, the OG Bitcoin miner, I said, I'll get the Uber. And he said, nah, cancel that thing because there's another event going on in the same place. And that was the original event that I was going to go to. So this event was super cool. It was at the top of the Conrad Hotel, like casino, and it was like a bar. It had some cake there. And there's just like amazing views around. You can see the video I'll show you. There was just amazing views. So yeah, this whole day was just awesome. It was just going to the crypto conference, day 2, and then just, you know, everyone like meeting so many people, going to the after party, and then the after party, and then the after party. I just felt like it was so cool to be around all these smart people. So yeah, we were at the top bar place overlooking the strip, and there was some cake there. And yeah, all these people were putting on these after parties that were like big Bitcoin companies, and they were definitely spending some money there. So yeah, and then I went back, and day 2. So I mean day 3, right? So we're now on the Bitcoin conference day 3. I went straight to the conference. Yeah, and just saw Michael Saylor speak. So Michael Saylor was talking about STRC, which is like a Bitcoin yield product. So he holds the Bitcoin and pays out 11.5% to someone in a product that stays the same price. And I was just talking to people about that speech, and a lot of people were skeptical. A lot of people were skeptical of Michael Saylor. Like, don't think that everyone is just like, you know, like a cult, just saying, oh, we love Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor can do no wrong. He's the greatest person ever. Like, people were like, STRC is like, we're skeptical about this. So, yeah, well, we can talk a lot more about STRC later. Even right now, as of time of recording this, Michael Saylor's getting in trouble because he said he would sell some Bitcoin, and he said never sell your Bitcoin. Anyway, it was really good talking to a few traditional finance people about Michael Saylor. Then went to the strategy booth and talked about like STRC and what are the risks of it, because it's really quite a new product. And yeah, just really interested about this thing. So we'll see what happens to it. Anyway, I went to the BTC miner after party. So there was an after party that just had BTC miners. So people who like are miners, and by miners I mean people who mine Bitcoin. And yeah, I met a guy who IPO'd Reddit, or he worked at BlackRock and IPO'd Reddit. And then this is where it gets interesting. So day 2. Oh, this is day 2. Right, this is day 2. Okay, the first one was day 1. I see. Yeah, the first one was day 1. This is day 2. Okay, get it. All right. And so I was at this BTC miner after party, and it was hilarious. There were these little finger food things that you could eat, like a bunch of finger food. And I hadn't eaten anything that day, so I just kept going back to the finger food to keep eating the finger food. And I said to the person who was working there, I said, I have a twin in here, and they're eating so much food, but that's not me. That's not me. I'm just coming to get the finger food, like, right? But I was just eating so much finger food because I didn't spend any money on food on this day. And yeah, so I went there. If you're still watching this, by the way, put a W in the comments if you're still watching this. This is such a long and convoluted story. Okay, so I'm at this BTC miner after party just talking to a bunch of people, and this is where I first got the inkling that I'm around people that I probably like, that I'm not related to, because I do social media. All these people do mining, so these people were very technical. So it was like I was kind of in the wrong place. Not the wrong place, but a place that I didn't really fit in. So after I went to the BTC miner like pre-party, there was a main party that everyone was going to, which was a dinner, right? But you needed an invitation to get there. So I was with some boys and they went to that dinner, and I went with another boy to the club, which was called Tao, right? Anyway, I'll just fast forward. When I saw those boys again, they said that dinner was amazing. They said there was sushi and like everything at this dinner. Anyway, so we go to Tao, which is a big nightclub in Vegas, and I got in for free because the Bull was holding an event there, right? So it's a company and an exchange. And so I went in there, and men were dressed as like with goat horns. It was quite satanic. Women were dressed like the devil. And yeah, it was a whole event put on by this one guy who was quite large, and he had a speech in the club. He said, "Oh, turn the music off, turn the music off. Okay, I just want to thank like that, my family and everything like that." And yeah, there was food at that event in the club. And yeah, just talking to people, I met a Indian man who was a businessman, and just these people are all, I guess that's the point of a conference, right? The people you meet are all like in a certain space, and they're all pretty smart. So the man that was quite large was talking to everyone, and then when he said, "Let's effing party," like right at the end of his speech, everyone like started partying. But it sounds lit when I describe it, but it wasn't. Like there wasn't that many people there. And yeah, I just left, and when I left, I got a I got a pair of headphones that looked like this, like just a Chinese headphones that were branded with that thing, like Bull, the exchange. And yeah, and I also got a wireless charger. So they just gave that for free. Like everybody who was leaving, you get a bag. So that was cool. And yeah, I didn't buy any food that day. So day 2 of the Bitcoin conference, I bought no food. I just ate the finger food from these after party events. Okay, so day 3 was pretty nice. I went to the conference and I saw people that I'd seen before, and I watched Jeff Booth's speech, who was talking about Bitcoin. He was talking to some physicists about Bitcoin as like a quantity of time, like how it can measure time, which is an interesting idea, and how Bitcoin is unhackable because it's never been double spent. I met these guys who are called Lust Story Jewelry, and I met them on the Bitcoin floor, and I saw he had a really cool watch. It was a bust down, iced out Audemars Piguet. So I went to his desk on the Bitcoin conference, and they made me a custom ring that said MDfashionco. So that's so cool. Shout out to you guys. And yeah, we got more to come with Lust Story jewelry. But yeah, they got some cool stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to show you what's going to come with those guys. Right? Anyway, so after day 3, I didn't really have that many events. I'm pretty sure the most lit events were in like the first 2 days. Those were the most lit. But day 3, I went to, I can't remember the place, but it was an XRP event. Now, when I went to this XRP event, it was up in the high rise, like rooftop bar, and it was beautiful, of course. I met a guy who was Japanese, and we were talking about like buying property in USA, which that guy was super smart. And everybody else was just religiously so attached to XRP, right? I would talk to them like, oh, Bitcoin is very interesting. And then they're just like, yeah, but XRP, why would you say Bitcoin? Why would you say Bitcoin? I'm all in XRP, all in XRP. And that is, again, when I got the inkling that like this was not the right place for me to be, because I'm a skeptic of XRP. I don't actually think it has any real value, but I hoped one of them would prove me wrong. But because it was so cult-like in there, like a cult, I don't think I could have said anything, because they were just like, oh, we all XRP. We don't do Bitcoin. We do XRP. And I'm just like, all right. And then there was one guy who was the big influencer there who was like 90% XRP, and everyone was talking to him. And yeah, I should have talked to him, but instead I just left. Anyway, so after Las Vegas, I went around the USA. I went to Yosemite, right? In San Francisco, in California. I went to Yosemite. That was cool. That was beautiful. The thing about Yosemite, this is not about the Bitcoin conference anymore. So the rest of this video is just going to be about what I did on my trip also. So I went to Yosemite, and it was pretty nice, right? So there was like a river and the waterfalls. And I must say the waterfalls were quite like, they were so big and so massive, it made you feel small, right? Just seeing the nature in its rawest and purest form was just beautiful. And I'm glad I went. And also, when I went all the way to the top, the water was so clean. It was quite crazy. The water was so clean, and I didn't see any fish, even though there probably were fish near the top. I didn't see any fish. And it was just so peaceful and quiet when you went all the way to the top. So yeah, Yosemite was, boys is honking over here. Yeah, so I went all the way to Yosemite. That was incredible. And then after, I went shooting, and shooting was awesome. Shooting was super awesome. There was a friend that allowed me to use his guns, and yeah, AR-15, shooting that, and shooting also his SIG pistol. Yeah, that was a really cool experience. I really felt like, I always think about what masculinity is, and I instinctively know that masculinity is not a big, loud exhaust, right? Although some people think it is. But when a man pulled out a 44 Magnum and started shooting, and I could just feel the aftershocks and the power of of those rounds, then I really started to think, this is like, that is masculine to me, right? Just having that massive gun. So that's what I took away from shooting. It's like, this is a cool ass sport, and it's masculine. That's how I feel about it. So that might be a weird place to end. But yeah, I also got like gumbo, as you do. The clam chowder thing, not gumbo. The clam chowder sourdough bread bowl, as you do when in San Francisco. So yeah, what a weird place to end. Let me know in the comments if you even watch this. Put a Q. If you watched all the way to the end, put a Q. And stay tuned, because I have some cool episodes coming up. I really want to talk to these guys about Bitcoin, because these people are so smart. I'm going to go reach out to them now, but I'm going to go edit this now. Thank you, everyone. MDfashionco podcast. Again, let's get another episode out there. Goodbye.